Okay, guys, welcome back to a new video here. So recently, Stephen A. Smith had a heated debate with Ben Shapiro on the issue of Derek Chauvin, the police officer who killed George Floyd back in 2020, 2021, when he kneeled on his neck for 9 minutes. Now, recently, Ben Shapiro has pretty wildly started a pardon Derek Chauvin campaign, arguing that President Trump should pardon him of all his crimes. First of all, he was convicted on the state level as well. So pardoning him on the federal level would do nothing other than cause massive, massive riots in America. People would freak out. So the idea that Shapiro is doing this is very strange. Not to mention, this is the hill you're going to die on. It's very strange. The entire thing is very strange. And frankly, it makes you wonder why, what are his motivations here? Why is he doing this? The entire thing is wild. And Stephen A. Smith recently, before this interview, called out Ben Shapiro, basically saying, "What are you doing, man? Like, what is wrong with you? Why are you advocating for this?" The man kneeled on his neck for 9 minutes, whatever it was, and killed him. And of course, his argument is, you know what? He had fentanyl in the system. That's why he died, et cetera, et cetera. Now, again, Stephen A. Smith, and we're going to show you the clip in a second, absolutely destroys him on this point, basically saying, yo, he wouldn't have died if he didn't kneel on his neck, regardless of the amount of fentanyl in his body. Regardless, Chauvin's actions were not appropriate in the slightest. In the slightest, okay? And it was absolutely disgraceful what he did. And if you talk to all of the numerous experts, police officers on this, they all condemned Chauvin, saying this is not how you're supposed to behave. It's an utter disgrace what he did, and he should be in prison. The idea that they're trying to free him it's just a joke. And again, when it really comes down to it is, regardless if he had fentanyl in his system, there is no way he would have died if he kept his knee on, if he did not put his knee on his neck for 9 minutes. Okay, that's just a fact. Now let's just get into the clip here of Stephen A. Smith basically destroying Ben Shapiro on this point, saying, yo, he wouldn't have died. And why are you advocating for this? It makes no sense. Here's a clip and we'll talk about it after. Make sure to like and subscribe, guys. Please. It helps out the channel so much. And if you want to support the channel in any other way, my Patreon link and Amazon links are in the description as well. So take a look at that if you want to help out the channel. It helps out so much. Here's the clip, guys.
I think that there are an enormous number of people in the country who disagree with me, by the way, who share both my race and a lot of Jews, who I would say the vast majority of Jews disagree with me on this, or many white Americans who looked at George Floyd and had exactly the same reaction. And as you say, initially, I had the same reaction as you, and that had nothing to do with race. And so the kind of idea that let's put it this way, if race is a barrier to logic, then race is the problem, not the solution. Right? Let me ask you this. I mean, if you looked at, you said before that you didn't look at the autopsy report, you're not taking a lot of time looking at the evidence or the autopsy. What would it take for you to change your mind on the case? Or is there nothing that could change your mind on the case because you saw the tape, for example?
Well, it wouldn't take much, and this is why I said this, because normally I would look at the autopsy reports or whatever. You know, I saw people bringing up his arrest record. I saw people bringing up fentanyl in the system. I saw all of these things, and all I could come to, Ben, fair or unfair, was that none of that matters if he wasn't on the ground with a knee on the back of his neck for 9+ minutes. Because I'm looking at a trained police officer who should know better. I looked at the experts who were saying, they're trained. There was no reason. And you saw it. I'm sure you saw this. And not to say that you would embrace it with the level of sincerity that others may, because I know the level of skepticism that you look at when you see the news outlets. And by the way, I don't blame you. I'm with you on that, okay? But I would say to you, listening to experts talk about how police officers are trained and pointing to the fact that Derek Chauvin had no business being in that position and putting George Floyd in that position, particularly once he was handcuffed and contained. To me, that, along with the ultimate outcome, is all the evidence I need. And that's where we might differ.
I mean, that's totally fair if we differ on that. I guess the question I would ask you is, given the fact that that was a Minneapolis Police Department trained protocol, given the fact that Floyd did ask to be removed from the car, I mean, in the lead up to the situation, the part of the tape that nobody watches, he was actually outside the car. The police officers move him inside the car. He says he's claustrophobic, and then he claims 6 consecutive times that he cannot breathe while he's in the car. So if the idea is that it was the police officer's knee that deprives him of breath, he was already claiming that he couldn't breathe inside the car, suggesting he was already in the middle of some sort of medical event, right? And then he was brought outside the car. I guess the question that I have for you, again, is what level of evidence would need to be shown to create a reasonable doubt? I mean, you seem incredibly certain, right? All I'm saying is that the reasonable doubt standard is what pertains in criminal justice. What would it take to get you to reasonable doubt? Or is there no reasonable doubt that could be achieved simply by dint of the fact that he had his knee on his neck? By the way, it's not for the full 9 minutes. There are minutes where it's on his back. I mean, even the prosecution acknowledges that. The real question is, I think, the last 50 seconds, right? The last 50 seconds of the tape where Floyd stops breathing and Chauvin's knee is still on his neck. That is really the question as to whether this goes into criminal charge territory. Otherwise, he ends up being in a position where he's actually just using a typical subdual technique before you put the guy back in the car and you take him off to jail.
And I'm saying, to answer your question, there's absolutely nothing that could convince me that Derek Chauvin deserved a different outcome because of what you just articulated, what we saw, even if it's for the last 50 seconds. I'm not changing my position. I understand where you're coming from.
I mean, this is a real question. Do you think so we've talked about race a little bit. Do you think that Chauvin was a racist? This is a race-based crime interview.
Do I believe that?
Yes.
I don't believe that based on anything about his history that they articulated, because I know how people conjure up evidence to go at it. I do believe his actions indicated that, because I didn't see him doing that with anybody else. And the times that we were living in and the climate, as you articulated accurately, I might add, the heightened level of sensitivity that it exists because of brutality on the part of some police officers. By the way, I never say police brutality because I don't like to castigate all police officers that way. I know if I'm in trouble, I'm calling 911. I'm not going to sit up there and denigrate police officers throughout this country. But there's rogues that exist in every profession. And I think there's rogues that exist with certain police officers. So to me, he came across as one. And that was my...
And there you go. And again, Shapiro is a very good debater. He's a very good talker in a sense. So again, a lot of his entire point is he had fentanyl in his system. Okay, again, I say it again. Regardless, Stephen A makes a point very well. He says, listen, man, if he did not have his knee on his neck for 9 minutes, that would have been it. He would have survived. There's no serious person who can possibly dispute that. If you do, then you're just wrong. Like, I don't know how else to put it. It was a major story at the time. And at the time, Shapiro actually, of course, agreed with that this is terrible because everyone else did. Only years later, he's trying to bring this up, not to mention what this would do to the country if said pardon was to take place. And not to mention it would derail the Trump administration as well. So the entire thing is just completely wild to me. And Stephen A. Smith also made the point, he kind of implied he was racist as well before this interview. And he basically kind of walked that back a little bit. He basically said, Ben, if you was a Jewish person, would you be advocating for this? And he basically said, listen, I mean, as a commentator, my goal is to take myself out of that. Okay, well, not to mention he defends Israel on every single possible thing they do. So the idea that he's, being objective about things and not taking into account his personal closeness to certain issues is utterly ridiculous. Okay, and again, I'm not saying it's a matter of Shapiro being racist, but again, why is this the issue you're willing to die on? When clearly Chauvin made the mistake and he would not have died if he did not do that. That's what it comes down to for me. Okay, I think it's a very simple thing. And Stephen A., I think quite smartly called him out, thinking maybe this could lead to a discussion with Ben Shapiro that got views, and that's exactly what happened. Very good. You got to give it to Stephen A. He's a great marketer. Even with the LeBron James stuff recently, where he's, beefing with LeBron. Even today, he said he would slap LeBron if he put his hands on him. Like, what are you saying, bro? But he knows how to get clicks. And that's what it really comes down to. And it's a smart marketing ploy, especially if he plans to actually get deeper into politics. But again, I think Shapiro is completely off base here. The fact that you're starting a Pardon Derek Chauvin series, I mean, come on, bro. The Daily Wire, you have the CEO resigning, Jeremy Boring. The president, I think, stepped down. Apparently, they're having funding issues. And this is the hill you're going to die on? I mean, come on, man. It's just not a good look. I thought Stephen A. did a really good job. The full episode, if you want to check that out, you can. But I think that was probably the biggest portion of the episode. And that's really the crux of the argument. He would not have died if he did not put his knee on his neck for 9 minutes. That's a fact. Let me know what you guys think. Agree with me, disagree with me. I want a very wide, large audience here. So any sort of support would help out immensely. Make sure to subscribe. Thank you guys so much for watching. Drop a comment, drop a like, and I'll see you later.